protagonist, Greta, is a young woman with a tragic past. To escape her ex-boyfriend's harassment, she chose to travel across the ocean, coming to an old manor in the English countryside to work as a nanny. The driver tells her the owner isn't home yet and asks her to wait inside first. Greta pushes the door open, quite surprised by everything before her eyes. This manor is kept in perfect order, clean to an excessive degree. Out of politeness, she takes off her shoes. Just as she is looking around, strange noises come from upstairs. She thinks someone is there, so she follows the sound to the second floor. Just as she gets upstairs, she sees a family portrait hanging on the wall. In the photo are an old couple and a little boy. That sound rings out again. Greta searches in the direction of the sound, but discovers nothing. She notices a bedroom nearby. The door is open, filled with all kinds of exquisite toys. Greta curiously picks up a toy to play with. Suddenly, a man's voice comes from behind. The man hurriedly apologizes, introducing himself as Malcolm. He runs a grocery store in town and comes to the manor weekly to deliver supplies. The two chat for a bit. Malcolm says he knows a bit of mind reading. Able to tell from the gum Greta chews the reason why she came here. Greta hands him the gum skeptically. Malcolm takes a look, saying she came here to escape a certain person. Greta's expression changes slightly, and she quickly throws the gum away. Subsequently, Greta asks about the owner's son. Malcolm hems and haws, seeming to hide something difficult to say. Just then, the owners return. The old lady notices Greta is barefoot as soon as she enters and tells her to put shoes on. But Greta searches all her luggage, and the shoes have mysteriously vanished. The hostess smiles and says maybe her child is playing a joke on Greta. Greta changes into another pair of shoes and follows the couple upstairs. However, when she sees the son they mentioned, she is completely stunned. It turns out to be a life-sized porcelain doll. Greta can't help but want to laugh. But seeing the old couple's serious expressions, she forces the laugh back down. The couple solemnly introduces him to her. This doll is named Brahms, and Greta's job is to look after him. The hostess begins explaining the precautions. They hired several nannies before, but Brahms didn't like any of them. She must wake Brahms up at 7 a.m. every morning, and also dress him. Brahms likes music. She must play it for him every day. After dinner, the host finds Greta privately, asking her to regularly check the rat traps in the manor. He also says something meaningful. Although all this seems not quite normal, he always believes his son is still here, always accompanying them. That night, Greta sees the couple whispering in Brahms's room. Seeing her come, they ask her to leave them be for a moment. After a while, the hostess comes out to tell her good news. Brahms likes her and has chosen her. Greta is both happy and confused. Couldn't help but stare at that doll for a long time. Late at night, Greta uses the landline to call her best friend, complaining there is no signal here and no internet either. Her friend tells her bad news. Her ex-boyfriend Cole has been looking everywhere for her recently. Hearing this, Greta immediately tells her friend not to contact her anymore. The next day, the old couple is leaving for vacation. Before leaving, the host hands Greta a list of rules, solemnly instructing her to abide by them. Because Brahms is a special child, they also say if Greta treats Brahms well, Brahms will also treat her well. But if she treats him badly, stopping mid-sentence, the two hesitate to say more. After watching the old couple leave, Greta goes back into the house, thinking it is just a doll. What is there to be afraid of? She casually places Brahms on a chair and covers him with some clothes. Unknowingly, Greta falls asleep on the sofa. When she wakes up, it is already dark. But when she looks at Brahms again, she discovers the clothes covering Brahms have actually fallen off. Greta feels a bit annoyed and tosses the doll onto another chair. In the middle of the night, Greta is awakened by a child's cry. She takes a candle downstairs to check. The sound seems to come from the living room. As she walks to the large portrait to examine it closely, she wakes up with a start. It turned out to be a nightmare. But not long after, that crying sound rings out again. Greta looks at Brahms, shocked to find a tear stain on the doll's eye. She touches it with her finger, feeling it is unbelievable. Just then, another drop of water falls. Greta looks up to see. It turns out the ceiling is leaking. She breathes a sigh of relief and moves Brahms to the bed to settle him. A few days later, Malcolm comes to deliver her wages. Greta asks him about Brahms' past. Malcolm tells her, 20 years ago, the real Brahms, on his 8th birthday, passed away due to an accident. The strange thing is, not long after he left, this doll inexplicably appeared. Malcolm suggests taking Greta to town to relax, and guarantees not to tell the owners. Greta readily agrees, deciding to take a shower first and change clothes. However, while showering, a strange thing happens. Her clothes are first snatched away, then her necklace also disappears. Even more bizarre is, when she looks in the mirror, she finds a lock of her hair has actually been cut off. Then she discovers her clothes and necklace are gone. Greta suspects someone entered the room, so she hurriedly goes out to check. The folding stairs leading to the attic were opened by someone. She picks up something for self-defense and climbs up cautiously. But just as she gets up, the stairs close by themselves and won't open no matter what. Greta remembers Malcolm is still waiting downstairs, so she hits the iron grate hard, trying to attract his attention. Unfortunately, it is useless. Malcolm can't wait for her and drives away. Greta has to find a way out through the attic. Suddenly, a figure appears in the corner, scaring her off balance, falling headfirst to the ground, and passing out. When she wakes up, she realizes it was just a coat rack. She looks down in the attic and finds a photo album. Inside are all photos of little Brahms. Just as she is watching entranced, the folding stairs suddenly open by themselves. After she climbs down, Malcolm happens to come back. The two examine the ladder, concluding it opens and closes automatically due to disrepair. Because of the clothes and necklace incident, Greta firmly believes there is someone else in the house, so she asks Malcolm to stay and keep her company. She asks again about Brahms' past events. Malcolm says there are two versions in town. The nice one is that he was such a cute child, gone at such a young age, too pitiful. The ugly one is that Brahms had a weird personality since childhood. Hard to figure out. What they don't know is, every word they say, someone hears clearly. That night, when Greta washes up, she constantly feels something flashing past behind her. She walks into Brahms's room, finding the room ransacked and in a mess. She walks over to the doll, feeling his gaze is very strange. So she reaches out to straighten the doll's face. Greta wakes up with a start. It was another dream. She calms down and prepares to go out. As soon as she opens the door, the shoes she lost earlier are neatly arranged right at the doorway. She walks into Brahms's room, finding the doll sitting up by himself. Next to him is that list of rules. Greta takes a closer look, realizing she has already violated many of them. Greta runs back to her room in a panic, but the phone suddenly rings. She picks it up, hearing a child's voice on the other end, calling her name over and over again. Greta is terrified and throws the phone aside. Immediately after, a noise comes from outside the door, as if something was set down. She opens the door trembling with fear, finding a breakfast tray placed there. At that moment, Greta seems to understand something. Brahms has no malicious intent. He just hopes she can follow those rules. From this day on, Greta starts to take this job seriously, taking care of Brahms according to the requirements on the list. Meanwhile, on a distant shore, the old couple picks up stones and puts them in their pockets. It turns out they did not go on vacation, but went to commit suicide. Before leaving, they left a letter for Brahms. The two slowly walk into the sea, never to return. Days pass by, and Greta seems like a changed person. Malcolm is surprised when he comes to deliver supplies. He says he picked up a letter for Greta, but Greta just indifferently tells him to put it down. She starts trying to talk to Brahms, hoping he might give some response. But the doll remains motionless. Just in the time it takes her to turn and dump the trash, when she looks back, Brahms has actually disappeared. She searches everywhere, finding he is hiding in a corner. Greta hurriedly calls Malcolm over, wanting to prove it to him. She uses chalk to draw a circle around Brahms. Then the two return to the bedroom to wait. She knocks on the wall. Not long after, a response comes from the other side of the wall. The two push open the door, finding the doll has indeed moved position. After confirming all this, the two go out for a walk. Greta reveals her past to Malcolm. Her ex-boyfriend Cole frequently abused her. Once, she got pregnant by accident. Cole promised to change, but reverted to his old ways after a few days, eventually causing her to lose the child. Malcolm comforts her with heartache, and feelings quietly heat up between them. That night, Malcolm urges Greta to leave this place. But Greta is a responsible person, unwilling to give up halfway. Malcolm hesitates for a moment, then tells her a secret about Brahms. 20 years ago, there was a little girl who often came to play with Brahms. But on Brahms' 8th birthday, after he went out, he never came back. Later, she was found in the woods, already passed away. The police summoned Brahms' parents. By the time they rushed home, Brahms' room was already engulfed in a massive fire. Everyone thought Brahms was gone in that fire. As for what exactly happened to that little girl, there's still no answer today. But everyone in town suspects the killer was Brahms. Despite hearing all this, Greta still does not leave. After Malcolm leaves, Greta climbs up to the attic again. She opens that photo album, and sure enough, finds the photo of that little girl. It seems what Malcolm said is all true. The next day, Greta takes Brahms for a walk in the manor. Suddenly, she hears the clack of billiard balls. Thinking it is Malcolm, she walks over to look, only to freeze in place. Standing right before her is the ex-boyfriend Cole she tried so hard to escape. At dinner, Cole says he has already booked the tickets, telling Greta to go back with him. Just then, Malcolm arrives to make a delivery and recognizes the man instantly. He finds an excuse to call Greta outside, and the two discuss how to drive Cole away. But Cole suddenly appears, so Malcolm has no choice but to leave. Cole is not a fool. He sees the relationship between them. Before bed, he threatens Greta, saying no matter where she runs, he will find her. Then he orders her to go pack her bags. Greta looks at Brahms in despair, whispering that she hopes he can help her. The scene cuts. Malcolm did not actually leave. He cannot rest easy, so he decides to sleep in his car. Late at night, while Cole is fast asleep, drops of unknown liquid suddenly drip onto his face. He shouts in anger, waking Greta up. The two rush out to look, finding someone wrote words on the wall mirror. Cole thinks Greta did it, but Greta's gaze turns toward Brahms. Greta senses something is wrong, so she steps forward to hug Brahms. Seeing this, Cole believes Brahms is the one who did it. He is absolutely furious, wanting to snatch the doll to vent his rage. Greta desperately tries to protect Brahms, but he is still snatched away by Cole. Malcolm arrives just in time, telling Cole to get out. Cole loses control and smashes Brahms hard onto the floor. The doll instantly shatters into pieces. Suddenly, a strange sound comes from upstairs. Everyone looks toward the sound, finding it is coming from behind the mirror. A person wearing a mask slowly crawls out from inside. Malcolm is stunned. It is Brahms, the real Brahms. It turns out, the fire 20 years ago didn't take his life. It only left him severely burned. Ever since then, he has been hiding in secret passages within the walls, depending on this doll for companionship. All the supernatural events were his doing. Brahms rushes towards Cole, subduing him with a shard of the doll. Then he grabs Greta. Malcolm rushes up to knock him out, pulling Greta to run for their lives. The two run into a room, and Greta accidentally discovers a secret passage. They just crawl in, and Brahms chases after them. At the end of the secret passage is a room. Inside is Brahms's real living quarters. Greta discovers all the things she lost before are here. On the table lies a letter, left by the old couple. The letter writes, they have betrothed Greta to Brahms, hoping she can keep him company forever. Malcolm pulls Greta to continue running. Brahms pursues relentlessly. He knocks Malcolm down. Greta finally finds the exit, but Brahms warns her, if she dares to leave, he will be unmerciful to Malcolm. Greta hesitates a moment, but still runs out. But she doesn't run far. Before turning back, she finds a screwdriver for self-defense, then goes back to face Brahms. When Brahms finds her, he doesn't attack immediately. Greta has a quick idea, using a commanding tone to tell him to go to sleep. Brahms actually lies down obediently. Just as Greta prepares to leave, Brahms makes a request. Greta pretends to cooperate, seizing the chance to pull out the screwdriver and strike back. Brahms cries out in pain and pushes Greta away. He then gets up and chokes Greta's neck. Just when Greta can barely breathe, Greta grabs the screwdriver and drives it in hard. Brahms falls down in agony, his eyes full of hurt and confusion. Greta finds Malcolm, finding that he is still alive. The two drive away from this manor. At the end of the story, Brahms didn't leave this world. He sits alone in the room, piecing together that broken doll bit by bit. Perhaps his heart is just like this doll. No matter how you try to repair it, the cracks will always exist.